Alrighty, it's finally time we take a look at this, the Autel Evo Lite. It's finally here, and this is one of two drones that Autel's releasing in 2022, and I'm gonna give you my first impressions. Let's get started. What's good, everybody? Ken here. You're watching OriginaldoBo. Today we're going to go over my first impressions of the Evo Lite. It's important to remember this is not a full review. This is not a full review. My full review will come much later when I have much more time to experience this fully, but I want to reiterate the fact that my opinions could change on this as I start to use it, but I will also let you know as a brief spoiler that I have very little bad things to say about this drone as a whole. With that said, you'll find timestamps down below where you can jump to the different segments of this video to find the information that most interests you. With that being said, we're gonna start off with build quality. So I have the Evo 2 Pro and the Air 2S on the table for comparison as we talk about the build quality. The Evo Lite is slightly smaller than the Evo 2 Pro, but larger than the Air 2S as far as design goes. The Evo 2 Pro and the Evo Lite share similar build designs, but the batteries insert differently, but they have some of the same functionality and some of the same design language, which is pretty interesting. I will tell you the Evo Lite is way better built than both of these drones on this table, the Air 2S and the Evo 2 Pro. It just feels a lot more premium. It's really hard to explain, but if you ever pick one of these up or have a chance to look at one of these, you'll be like, holy shit, he was right. It does feel a lot more premium. The Evo Lite has carbon fiber arms on all sides. The carbon fiber is unfinished. Now, some of you may like that. Some of you may hate that. I don't know if I like it or hate it simply because I don't know how it's going to hold up long term. It does seem to scratch somewhat easy, but if I just rub it, the scratches go away, which is pretty cool, but it is definitely real carbon fiber and there is no glossy coating to those, but I think it looks rather cool and they are definitely pretty rigid. The drone unfolds just like every other Evo, so there's no difference there. On the right-hand side of the drone, you're going to find a micro USB port. It's a USB-C port, and on the left-hand side, you're going to find an SD card port, so you can put a standard micro SD card in there. There is obstacle avoidance front, rear, and then on the bottom you do have some sensors along with a light and sonar sensors just beneath. It's a very, very clean built drone. It's really, really shocking how well built it is and how it looks. The battery slides in from the top. You just basically unclasp by pressing in, and it's not the same as a Mavic battery, how it locked in. This actually has to hit the ridge, so it does have protection. It has to lock into the ridge, and then you're gonna simply push forward, and it's gonna give a nice firm click. That will tell you that the battery is fully in place. So it's not like the Mavic, the Air 2S or the Mavic 2 Pro batteries. It's a little different. It has a ridge that it's sliding in. So it still gets removed like the other batteries where you have to pull it out from the rear. You cannot take this off from the top. You notice I'm pressing in on the indentations here and it's not allowing me to remove it. You actually have to pull it out to take that off. So pretty interesting. The gimbal is made out of metal. This is the Evo Lite Plus. Man, it's a mouthful to remember, but it is the Evo Lite Plus. This does have the 6K camera, which we're going to talk about this here because I've been very, very critical of the Evo camera recently, and just in general, I've been really critical of their color science of the Evo 2 Pro. So I want to talk about this because this camera is different. It is not the same camera that is on the Evo 2 Pro, in case you were wondering. We'll touch more on that here in a little bit. Overall, the build quality of the drone is really, really exceptional. Another thing that got an overhaul was the RC. There is a brand new RC. They're calling this the Sky Controller. There is no longer a built-in screen like they had on the Evo 2 Pro and the Evo itself. There is just, it's a very standard basic RC. It's very comfortable in the hands. It feels very well built. It feels sort of weighty. It doesn't feel light. It most resembles an Xbox controller, if I'm just being honest. That's what it feels like. The phone gets inserted into here. This is your antenna, similar to the Skydio controller and similar to the Mavic 2 controller. It functions in the same capacity. The sticks are removable, which I like that they're removable, but they didn't give us anywhere where you can actually put the sticks. And I scoured over this entire controller to see if maybe there was some sort of nook or cranny where I can put these sticks. But unfortunately, there is definitely not anywhere where you can put it. I was talking with another YouTuber that has this, has the Nano, and he confirmed that there is nowhere to put the sticks. So sort of weird that they would do that. So make sure you don't lose these because you don't get spares inside the box. So you definitely don't want to lose these particular sticks. Battery life on it's pretty good. I really don't have any complaints. It charges at the very bottom via USB-C, and then for data connectivity, again, it's USB-C. There are no standard USB ports, so you will need to keep that in mind because this does not come with a lightning connector. I really wish Autel would have their own MFI certified connector. I mean, for what it costs to do it, just do it because you're alienating probably one of your largest user bases that use an iPhone by having to have us go out and purchase that accessory. It's just sort of silly. Just include it. All right, let's talk about flight performance. So this thing flies absolutely incredible. This doesn't fly like any Autel I've ever had. In the past, I've always had to do XP tuning and modify things and just really sort of tweak it to be able to get the Evo to fly the way I would expect it to fly because I'm used to DJI products. And I have to say, this was amazing to see that this flew flawlessly right out of the box. I didn't have horizon tilt. I didn't have any issues with my yaw. It wasn't jerky. It just did what I expected it to. And the stick inputs were perfect. It flew a lot like a Mavic, if I'm just being quite honest. It really did. And it threw me off. And I was actually thinking to myself, I'm like, this isn't right. This doesn't feel like an Evo. And I was expecting, my expectations were here. But after I was done flying, I was like, oh, damn. This is different. Whatever they've done with it, whether it be processor, the developers, whatever time they needed to take to release this, it's obviously worked because it does not fly like my Evo 2 Pro. Not one single bit. And I really hope a lot of you get a chance to fly this because it'll put a smile on your face if you're used to anything DJI. It really will. So it does fly a hell of a lot better as far as performance goes. They've also improved the transmission. Now we have the V2 transmission system on here. They really don't have a nickname for it. Like DJI calls their transmission system OcuSync. This isn't OcuSync or anything. You have options. You can choose smooth, you can choose HD, or you can choose it's like a low latency mode. And I tried them all and I found that the difference between them is very, very negligible between them all. I did find that the range on this is actually quite good. I didn't do a range test on it. I don't believe in doing them. I did push it out about 4,500 feet out over the water, and I found that I had no issues. Now, previously with using the Evo 2 Pro, or even the Evo, I would have immense amounts of breakup, and I didn't have any breakup or any issues that were very prevalent that would cause me any concern. I will say the antennas on the RC are a little bit more directional, so you do want to be mindful of that. You do need to really make sure you point this in the direction your craft is. Otherwise, you will get a loss of signal and it can actually disconnect, but it comes back rather swiftly after it does disconnect. So there is that. So as far as performance goes, I'm pretty damn happy with this drone. I don't really have a complaint right now. So pretty damn interesting. All right, let's talk about, if I can get it out, let's talk about the battery life on this. Alrighty, so battery life on the Evo Lite is pretty damn exceptional. I really didn't have a good gauge on what the batteries were going to do when I first flew this. I just flew it around, just really sort of trying to get the feel for it. But in the past few days, I've been flying this pretty much as I possibly can throughout the day. And I will say that the battery life is great. They're quoting this at 40 minutes of battery life. This is a 6175 milliamp hour battery, and I'm getting about 35 to 36 minutes of flight on average. That's with wind. So take that for what it is. Your environment may may dictate differently. And if you have it in sport mode, it may mean that you're not going to get as much flight time. I kept it in standard for most of my flights and I found that that was okay. But if you flip it under in the sport mode, you're going to be seeing about decreased flight times to about 30 minutes on average, which I still think is really exceptional. So 35 to 36 minutes on a quoted real-time flight of 40 minutes is still pretty good. And that is coming down with battery to spare. That's coming down with about 20 to 25% battery to spare. So do I think this can totally fly for 40 minutes? Absolutely. Will I be willing to drain those batteries down that far? Absolutely not. This is a 3S LiPo. So, you want to be a little bit mindful of that. You don't want to push these too far to where you're draining them. That's how damage occurs. And I don't want to damage these. I don't even know what these batteries cost, but I will say the battery life is exceptional. Now I did get the sort of the Fly More bundle and it came with a 3-way charger. So I can connect up 3 of these batteries as I'm charging it. And they charge really quickly. Charge times are about 90 minutes. So budget yourself some time if you are, just buying one battery. You're definitely going to want to have multiple batteries because at 90 minutes per battery charge, you're going to be waiting for a little while. All right, let's get to the part that I think everybody wants to hear, and that is the camera. Okay, so the camera on the Evo Lite is pretty damn interesting. So the Evo Lite has 2 different models. You have the Evo Lite and you have the Evo Lite Plus. The version with the 1-inch adjustable aperture and the 6K camera is the Lite Plus. That is this version here. This is the most premium version that they offer. Now the camera shoots up to 6K at 30 frames per second, 4K up to 60 frames per second, and you can shoot 1080p up to 120 frames per second on this device. Now, you will not be able to shoot 10-bit color. This is only an 8-bit camera. And a lot of people have asked, can it shoot 10-bit? And the answer is no, it can't. And that may be one of the biggest reasons why you decide you don't want to buy this. Is it a big deal? It depends. If you're using something like this professionally, it may be a big deal to you that you don't have 10-bit color. As a creator, if I was just using this for a travel drone and posting these like casual videos, no big deal, it's on me. But if I'm doing something professionally, I still like the quality coming out of my Air 2S as far as the color goes, and the 10-bit log, it looks amazing. Unfortunately, there is no log format on this camera as of right now. Can that change? Yes. Is it a good idea if they include a log format on a camera that can't shoot 10-bit? No, it's not. And I probably wouldn't recommend it because log without 10-bit tends to have some problems with banding, and there's just some artifacting, and it could just be really ugly if you don't know what you're doing. I would say if they could give us a flatter profile, like a Cine-like profile, I think that would be acceptable. But I will say from the clips that I have shot, it looks great. Just shooting in auto, I don't really see too many issues. One of the things that looks like they've improved is the fringing and the over sharpening around edges. As I was flying over the Gulf and flying around these marshes, I noticed that I wasn't getting this crazy, like sort of crunchy look to it. There was enough flexibility to where I can add a little bit of sharpening back into post, and it didn't look bad. There's still a plethora amount of detail in all of these images, but without being overly done. So whatever they've done with this camera system specifically and the algorithms at play on this camera has been much improved, and the images do look better than that from the Evo 2 Pro. That is 100%. Now let's talk about low light performance on this, because low light performance, this thing is a little beast. So Autel's talked about how they have this moonlight algorithm, and this moonlight algorithm is pretty amazing. It's just a setting in the application that you toggle over to. You can choose video or photo, and there's 2 different options when you're shooting video. You have normal low light, and then you have super low light, and it boosts the ISOs up to 48,000. Let me repeat that. 48,000 ISO. And I'm going to throw up some sample clips here. These are not processed, no denoise. This was just shot in automatic, no manual settings, and I think it looks pretty damn good. And this is with their moonlight algorithm that they're coining it, and I think it looks pretty damn good. The photos look great. There is some flaring around the highlights, but take that for what it is. I think most of the people that are looking to purchase this are going to be a hobbyist, not so much the commercial aspect. But I like what they've done here. I think they're making some steps in the right direction. Now, If they can bring some of these improvements over to the Evo 2 Pro lineup, I think that would be amazing, and it'd be a welcome thing from people that have purchased the Pro line, one in Pro Performance. I think they have to bring this update over to that line. I mean, if it's capable of doing it, I think they have to, because a lot of the things that are happening here have to be done with software. And for the most part, I'm pretty impressed with the images coming out of this. Photos look great. Yeah, it's pretty damn good. Let's talk about the not so good, or the things that I don't like about this drone, because there's a few, there's not many, and I'm not gonna harp on them too heavily because I don't think they're really deal breakers. Okay, let's start with the Sky app. The Sky app is very, very, very basic. It's super, super minimal, and it's a little bit difficult to navigate certain scenarios around the Sky app. This could be just one of the growing pains of developing a new application. Hopefully they will make it to where it's a little bit more comparable to the Explorer app, but as of right now, there are certain things that are missing. There are flight modes, there are things like the night shot and hyperlapses and panels. There's a lot of interesting features, which I will touch on. I promise I'll touch on them in a separate video, because I can make a whole video just about those modes. But I didn't notice that there was any auto bracketed exposure, which I use quite heavily for real estate. That would be one reason why I wouldn't use this professionally. There's no AEB shots, at least what I've seen so far. And the fact that there's no log, even though, like I said moments ago, that I don't think that there should be log, because this is only an 8-bit camera. We need some sort of creative flat profile for those of us that want to push it a little bit further and tweak the colors. That is really the only real negatives that I've found with this drone. I'm not saying this is a perfect drone, because it's not a perfect drone. If this thing shot 10-bit color, it's pretty damn close to perfect, if you ask me. It's like, we're so close. Like, this drone, perfect size, amazing, but there's no adjustable aperture. This has got an adjustable aperture, an amazing flight time, great performance as far as flight characteristics goes, but there's no 10-bit color. It's not the biggest deal in the world, because I still think the image looks great, but one can only hope. Eventually, one day, maybe we'll land that perfect size, that perfect drone. But as of right now, if you're somebody who is not really wanting to go with a DJI product, you want something a little bit different. You want something that doesn't have those flight restrictions, and it doesn't have the DJI branding. This is obviously the only real alternative in the marketplace right now, is the Evo Lite. Now, I do plan on getting the Nano in hand, and I'll take a look at this, take a look at the Nano and compare it to this to see, if there's a dramatic difference. But my guess, a lot of people will probably be really, really happy with the Lite if you're thinking about going with your first Autel drone. I mean, this is, damn, it's pretty good. And I mean, I ripped Mark Fisher a new asshole in his New Hampshire group over he made a comment that something about the Mavic 3 quality versus the Evo 2 Pro. And I was just like, no, the Evo 2 Pro is absolute doo-doo, it's shit. I was a little abrasive. I was having a really bad day, and I apologize, Mark, for that. But this fixes the problems that I have with the Evo 2 Pro. Like, it fixes the camera quality issues. And I really hope that they bring this update and the software over to that drone, because I feel like it would only be fair for those users. But if they don't, I mean, there's got to be good reason why they won't. All right, I don't want to ramble too far. That's going to do it for this video. If you do want to get your hands on one of these, we will be shipping those from DroneWorks. If you weren't aware, DroneWorks isn't a company that sponsors me. I own 50% stake in DroneWorks, which means I actually hand ship a lot of the products that you get. I also handle a lot of the orders, and supporting DroneWorks helps support me be able to do this and give you sort of these unbiased, unfiltered reviews. Whether you buy this or not from me, I think that you will really enjoy it, because, like I said, it caught me off guard, and that is really rare, as Autel would do. And I'm usually not surprised very often by them, but this surprised the living shit out of me. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Links it in the description below if you want to buy one. Like I said, they will be shipping directly after CES. We have limited quantities available and some pre-orders canceled because of the whole shipment debacles. All right, That's going to do it. Thank you so much for all your support. Looking forward to a beautiful, wonderful 2022. Stay original.
I heard they checking for me, no one checking on me, so I had to go run up a check. I got the message on me, ain't no flexing on me, my attorney gon' call and collect. Blessings on blessings for me, my successes only made them envious, they got upset. I had to put all their egos in check. I want the money, the power, respect, and I heard you know so-and-so.